AITA if I say no to allowing my husband's daughter to come live with us full-time? I have been married to my husband for 6 years. We have 2 kids together, 8M and 4M. Our youngest is special needs. My husband also has a daughter, 12, from a previous relationship. My husband's ex has had primary custody. My husband gets SD on weekends and alternating holidays/birthdays. This past weekend, my SD asked my husband if she could come live with him full-time. Her mom recently moved in with her fiancé and his kids, and there has been some friction with that from what I understand. Nothing nefarious, just a new house, new rules, having to share a bedroom, etc. My husband didn't give her an answer either way. He said he would look into it. When he and I were discussing it, I had the following objections. SD and our kids do not get along. It is something we have worked on for years, in and out of therapy, and it just ain't happening. SD resents mine for existing, and is cruel towards my youngest for their disabilities. There have been issues with her bullying. My oldest is very protective of his little brother and hates SD for being mean to his brother. He has started physical altercations with her over it. The truth is that most of the time we have SD, I make arrangements to take the boys to visit their grandparents, or husband takes her out of the house for daddy-daughter time to avoid conflict. I cannot imagine how living together full-time would be for them. We really don't have room. We have a 4BR home. Both my husband and I WFH so we can be a caretaker for my youngest. Due to the nature of his disabilities, it is really not feasible for him and my oldest to share a room. It wouldn't be safe or fair for my oldest. My SD's room is used as my office space during the week. I arrange my vacation time and whatnot around her visitation so I can stay out of her space while she is here. I have to take very sensitive phone calls, and I need a closed door when I work, so common areas are out, and my husband uses our bedroom as his home office, so that's out too. We don't currently have room in the budget to make an addition to the house or remodel non-livable spaces at the moment. My husband hears my objections and understands them, but he wants to go for it and figures that everything will eventually work out. He doesn't want his daughter to think he is abandoning her. And I feel for the girl. It would be awful for your dad to say no when you ask if you can live with him. But I have my own kids to think about too, and I just do not believe that her living here is in their best interest at all, considering their history and our current living arrangements. Does saying no to this put me in evil stepmom territory? Edit, for the people who want to make me into a horrible homewrecker to go along with being an evil stepmom. Sorry to disappoint you, but we did not have an affair. My husband and my stepdaughter's mom were never married. They were never in a relationship. They were friends with benefits. They bartended together, would shoot the bull, and would sometimes get drunk in F. My husband claims he needed beer goggles cause she really isn't his type. When my SD's mom found out she was pregnant, she told my husband she was keeping it and asked if he wanted to be in the baby's life. They never lived together, except for a few weeks during the newborn stage to help out. Yes. I had my first before I married my husband. My husband and I were in a long-term relationship when I had a birth control malfunction. My husband and I discussed what we wanted to do, and we both decided we wanted to raise the child. A few days later my husband proposed. I wanted to take time to recover from birth and wait until our kiddo was old enough to pawn him off on the grandparents for the week so husband and I could enjoy our wedding. We didn't get married until my oldest was 2. Edit 2, regarding my youngest son's disabilities, SD's bullying, and my oldest starting fights, since there is a lot of projection and speculation. My youngest son has both physical and mental disabilities. He uses multiple kinds of medical and therapy equipment. My SD has shoved him out of his wheelchair. She has pinched him hard enough to leave bruises. She had hit his face when he was having trouble verbalizing. IDJF if this is normal sibling behavior. It is alarming enough to me that I feel it is best for my youngest to spend as little time as possible with her until this behavior completely stops, and I will say it has lessened quite a bit. We went through a period of it happening frequently, and it has slowed. The last incident was 2 months ago when SD grabbed my son's wheelchair and aggressively pushed him out of her way because he was blocking the hallway. One of the times that my son had started an altercation with her was because she had told my son that his brother was not a real person and that she was going to call the hospital to have him taken away so they could perform experiments to find out what it was. She went into detail about things they would do to him. Like ripping his fingernails out. And yes, my son did lose his temper and hit her. My son was immediately disciplined, loss of tablet time, and we had an age-appropriate discussion about how his heart is in the right place to want to protect his little brother, but he needs to find an adult when something like that happens. This was not made up. Stepdaughter admitted she said it to my husband when he was able to sit her down and talk with her later in the day. I am not allowed to discipline or have parenting talks with SD per Biomom's wishes. I am not welcome to be a part of SD's therapy journey, mostly per Biomom's wishes. She doesn't want me involved. My husband has always been worried about rocking the boat with Biomom on these things. So I do not know the extent of what therapeutic treatments she has had. And my husband has gone to sessions, but it isn't something he is free to discuss with me. So I am in the dark about that. Edit 3. There's someone in the comments who claims to be my sister-in-law. They are either a troll or are mistaken. My husband is an only child. I don't have a sister-in-law. Comment. Honestly, I don't really know how to rule on this. Ultimately, I just feel bad for kids in her position. No excuse for bullying on her part. Kids whose parents get divorced and start new families and suddenly they have no place and they're no one's priority. Having quite a few friends who were in that position just sucks. I was the SD in this position and it's hard to not fit in anywhere while everyone else has their place. I would take the middle route. Sit SD down and explain to her that the way she treats your kids has been unacceptable for a long time, and you refuse to let her live there if she's going to keep bullying and hurting them. Tell her if she can change her behavior and treat her step-siblings with respect and kindness, you'll be willing to revisit the subject after she stays consistent for a year. I think that if you and your husband make it clear that her behavior towards the other kids is a problem, she won't feel abandoned. She also might just suck it up and deal at her mom's. But she needs to understand that her treatment of your kids is going to continue to be a problem if she doesn't choose to change. Update 1. So last week my husband and I sat down together and talked about SD coming to live with us full-time and how that would work out. It was a difficult discussion because, as some Redditors had suggested, I really pushed hard for him to really think things through and figure out the obstacles. Where would he and I work? Common areas are out due to the nature of our jobs. I can't due to employer restrictions. He does some NSFW things in his we don't want the kids to see. How are we going to handle the animosity and bullying between the kids? What consequences would be in place? We talked about what expectations would be for SD living here full-time versus just weekends. About how she probably has unrealistic expectations about what the nitty-gritty life here is like. We talked through every possibility we could come up with. Including out there possibilities like selling out home or separating our household and living apart for a while. We ran numbers to see how it may affect your finances. And ultimately we agreed that the answer was not yet, with a goal for our family working towards it. And that the best course of action would be to slowly adjust the amount of time she spends in our home versus a sudden custody switch. So Friday night my husband took SD out to talk to her about everything. He explained to her that she wouldn't have her own room at our place for a couple years, but that is something that is on the top of the list for home improvements once our youngest's handicap accessibility renovations are paid off. He talked to her about what expectations of living with us would be like. That she would have chores and responsibilities. And most importantly they talked about the bullying and laid down the provision that we needed to see her relationship and attitude towards her brothers improve before she can live here full-time. SD obviously wasn't thrilled about any of this, but she said okay and that she would do better with her brothers. So Saturday I made arrangements for my parents to watch our sons, and we invited SD's mom over so we could all sit down and figure out how SD can start to spend more time here. And that is when it fell apart. Mom is not okay with a change in custody at all. Absolutely not, was her answer. She took SD home early Saturday. My husband tried to reach out to SD on Sun to see how she was and ask if she wanted to do their guitar lesson over Skype or something since her mom took her home early, but she never responded. He called SD's mom and she informed him that SD had lost her phone privileges. So we don't really know what is going on with all that. Edit. For those concerned about SD's mom violating custody arrangements. Please note that my husband and SD's mom do not have a formal custody arrangement. There is no court order in place. They have always just worked things out between themselves. Yes. This is a very stupid thing that they have done. Yes. Asses are being bitten. My husband and I will not just go get her until we understand what we legally can and cannot do in our state and until we have copies of all pertinent legal documents to cover our own asses. While we do not suspect abuse, please know my husband is in contact with SD's mom and SD through her. He has not expressed concern for SD's safety. If at any point we feel that has changed, we will make immediate moves. Edit. Turns out SD threw her phone at her mom's face, hitting her mom and cracking the screen. Mom isn't giving it back until SD has paid off the deductible. That is why she lost phone privileges. We do have alternative forms of contact with SD at this time. Comment. Your husband needs a formal custody agreement since just the idea of his daughter spending more time at your house has caused her mom to punish her and prevent her dad from speaking to her. That's unacceptable, and if they had a custody agreement, she couldn't do it. Update 2. My husband has a daughter that predates our relationship. We also have 2 children of our own, one of which is severely disabled. He and his daughter's bio mom never had a formal custody arrangement, but due to some recent drama and changes, it became apparent we needed to get something formal and court-ordered in place. So we consulted an attorney. While on that course we discovered that my husband wasn't listed on the birth certificate. We had paternity testing done. My husband is not the biological father. He's hurting so bad, and I can't do anything to take his pain away. We've hugged and cried together so many times this week. He's not okay. He's flip-flopping through despair and anger. The anger scares me. His knuckles are all fucked up from punching something. He wouldn't talk to me about what happened. Shit is falling apart at home. My husband is in no place to be a father and partner right now. I send our oldest to my sisters, but my youngest is having a really bad week with his medical issues. I think he picks up on the stress/mood of the house. We had to go to the ER last night due to the increased seizure activity. When I came home, my husband was fucking drunk. He became belligerent and demanded I have our sons tested too. He didn't even ask how our son was doing. I was so pissed off but held my tongue and walked out of the room. I left a few Gatorades and some aspirin next to him after he passed out. I'm trying to get him in to see a therapist. No dice so far. We haven't told SD or Biomom yet. We've already skipped one of our regularly scheduled visitations with SD, and another is coming up soon. So that is going to need to be dealt with ASAP. I just don't know what to do. I'm so afraid right now. I don't know how much longer I can hold things together. I want off this ride. Comment. OP, my heart goes out to you, and your husband, and your stepdaughter. It is all so awful. Is there any possible way you can have a scheduled family therapist meeting when it's your husband's time for custody? He may need to have a session or two prior to that particular session so he can get a game plan on how to tell stepdaughter. Further, the meeting with a family therapist while it's his custody time is so that he can do it in session with the therapist there. Maybe just the two of them. Comment. Is that feasible? I would try your best to be there for him while also making sure your children are not affected. This is not your fault or the kid's fault. And I would tell him if he can't at least attempt to get a better control on things, then he needs to stay somewhere else because it is negatively impacting his son. And if he ain't gonna be there for them and take care of him, then you will. It can have life-lasting effects on the kid, and it's not fair to him to stand up for him, please. Comment. I agree. His anger is affecting all of his children. He is an adult and needs to pull it together. Update 3. I had a couple people asking if I would update and let you guys know how my husband is doing now that we are a couple months out from our D-Day. Some things are better, and others are a hell of a lot worse. Not long after I posted, my husband and I had the biggest, full-blown drawn-out fight of our entire relationship. I honestly cannot even tell you how it started. It was one of those little things that just triggered, and all the stress, anger, resentment and other negative emotions we had been feeling were just completely taken out on one another. I took the kids and left afterwards. I refused to come home until my husband got his head out of his ass and talked to someone about all of this. The silver lining to the big blowout was it did spur my husband on to start dealing with everything. He has been to his doctor and has been prescribed medication, and he has been looking for a therapist. He did a session with one, but didn't particularly click with them. He is going to pursue others as our finances allow. My husband and I discussed his drunken demand for paternity testing. I was able to express how hurtful that was to me. He apologized fully and has decided he does not need to have our sons tested right now. We've discussed options for what we'll do if doubt continues to linger on my husband's part, but as of now no testing is being done. Husband and I are both trying our best to show each other grace on this matter. The hell of a lot worse part is what is going on with stepdaughter. My husband had to take a few weeks without visitation to get his own emotions under control. Then we had our typical weekend visit. We did not tell stepdaughter or bio-mom about the test results yet, as we were still considering our options for the next move. My husband had ultimately decided that he still wanted a relationship with his daughter and still wanted to pursue legal custody. The attorney we had consulted suggested that with our state's laws and the established parental relationship, we should have a claim and could likely get court-ordered partial custody, but it would be a more complicated legal case. So that's all fine and dandy, but my husband, in a very boneheaded move, did not play his cards close enough to his chest with bio-mom. Several weeks ago they had a verbal altercation. We have not been able to get in contact with bio-mom, her fiancé or stepdaughter since. We contacted the police, who told us this was a civil matter and we needed to go through the courts, so no help there. Sorry. I wish I had a happier update, or more of an update in general. Comment. I cannot imagine how hard this must be on all of you. Could you try reaching out to the county sheriff's office to ask for a wellness check on SD? OP, could you try reaching out to the county sheriff's office to ask for a wellness check on SD? We have attempted that. We live in a rural township and our police is the county sheriff's. They wouldn't divulge any information. So no dice. Comment. They couldn't even tell you that they saw her and she is alive and well? Yeah, they'll normally do that much, especially for a parent/child. I'd call again. Be calm, just state that you need to make sure your daughter is okay, that's it, that's all, that's the extent. Praying it all works out well for you. What a hard situation. Oh, and I think your husband is what my dad would refer to as they wouldn't tell us anything. I don't know what the hell went down. The first person from the sheriff's office seemed like they were going to be helpful. They said they would send someone. I don't know what bio mom said or did, but a second officer came to our house and asked for documentation and told us we need to take this up with the court. OP gets a lot of comments to do the paternity test for her kids. Paternity testing is not happening unless we have a couples counselor. That's a hill I am willing to both die and kill my marriage on if need be. It will put him at ease and will build his trust in you. After the decade we have been together, where we have had zero issues of infidelity or untrustworthy behaviors between us, he should not have to be building trust in me. At this point in our relationship, the trust should be there. For me, the level of distrust that he has shown in accusing me of cheating, which is what a demand for paternity testing is, means that our marriage is in deep shit. There simply is no meaningful romantic relationship without trust for me. Giving him peace of mind with a paternity test does not address the underlying trust issues. So he may get peace of mind in that regard, but doing so will cause me to doubt the entire foundation of our marriage. To be put simply, a paternity test without couples counseling will lead to our divorce. He'll get 3 envelopes. 2 with positive paternity results. 1 with my petition for divorce. Yes. I feel that strongly about it. As it is, my husband says he does not feel the need to test our kids. That it was a drunken outburst. He says he is in a better place now and hasn't brought it up again in discussion. And he does know my stance. If he still feels the need to have our kids tested, fine. We'll make it happen, but only if he also agrees to couples counseling first.